Citizens often have questions or would like more information about specific topics, projects, and/or processes in city government. We have designed a show to do just that. Through a series of discussions with Mayor Randy McClement and key city staff and guests, we hope to educate, clarify, and update our viewers on a variety of current city topics. I'm Susan Harding, and welcome to City Issues. Now that Phase 2 of Carroll Creek Linear Park is well on its way, we thought this would be a great time to present information on this project. Today's show is the first of a three-part series on Carroll Creek Linear Park and will focus on the history and vision of the park. Today I am pleased to introduce Senator Ron Young, former mayor of the city of Frederick from 1974 to 1990, and currently our Maryland State Senator representing Frederick, and the visionary of the Carroll Creek project.
Senator, welcome. Thanks
Glad to be here.
Joining us today. The Carroll Creek project is one of the signature projects in the city of Frederick. And as Susan said, we're going to do this little history and recap and a three-parts event to explain about the creek. And who better to have here is the person who sort of had the vision and started all this. But what I thought we'd ask is if you could provide us, a little history of how and why this vision came to be.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Well, going back many decades, certain parts of town flooded every time we had a hard rain. Church and Bent Street, both East and West Patrick Streets at the creek, the courthouse, what's now the courthouse lot, the second parking garage lot, the third parking garage lot. It was always a mess every time we had a hard rain. Sagner, down on the eastern part of the stream, complained quite frequently that their property flooded. So in the administration I was on the board, we did a small flood study, and it was really going nowhere. But in 1976, we had a major flood. It was terrible. We had $10 to $25 million damage in 1976 dollars. Toured the creek in a boat that day and a helicopter, and we had to do a much more serious study after that and come up with a way to try to correct it. When the study was basically complete, we had to look at several options as to how we could do it. I mean, the first option was to do nothing and continue flooding. The second option was to try to hold the water west of the town, but there was no place there to do that. We're in a big bowl. The third option was to remove everything from the floodplain, which would have eliminated downtown Frederick pretty much. The fourth option was to create a giant storm sewer similar to what they have in Cumberland. It would have been a very wide creek with concrete walls, and it would have been like a Chinese wall separating the north and south side of town. It would have been ugly. It would have been a maintenance problem. So we, kept looking at it and decided, and eventually came up with the plan to build 4 conduits to carry the water through underground. And that really wasn't satisfactory because it would have eliminated the creek. So we decided to do 2 conduits on each side, make Baker Park a detention area, let it overflow, go underground, but to keep a stream in the middle. I looked around at other projects where they had handled flood control, and the one that was most appealing was San Antonio. Though this is totally different in how it's handled, just the concept of San Antonio was a good one. So we actually made the creek the approximate width of the horseshoe in San Antonio and approximately the same depth to keep a stream flowing through. So the stream feeds into that, and when we have a serious rain, it overflows and goes through the conduits. And for people that don't know the size, it was always estimated that we could drive 8 Greyhound buses through those conduits. They'd be scraping the walls, but we could do 2 in each conduit. It was estimated at the time that that would be about a $45 million project, and I think the city budget for everything at the time was about $10 million. So it seemed like an impossible task. And we had the Corps of Engineers look at it. It didn't qualify for what they did, which ended up being a hindrance because people then said, well, if the Corps of Engineers won't do it, why should we do it? They didn't say it wasn't a good project. It just wasn't eligible for their funding. So we had to look at how and where we could get the money. So we came up with the concept of a trifold project. There was no money at the state for flood control. There was very little money for park, but you could sell economic development. So we did the conduits with the idea of building a park over top of it, so the flood control of the park. And then we went down and sold economic development in terms of being able to rebuild Frederick along the stream and the dollars it would bring in. And went to the legislature, I think 4 straight years, and got $2 million a year and built little pieces of it. And then did something that frankly government's often accused of. Went down and said, we'd look really foolish if we didn't finish this after we've spent $8 million on it. And I needed approximately $36 million to finish it. And Governor Schaefer had just come in, and so I called him for a meeting. We went down, and I said we need $36 million to finish it, and I was hoping the state would match us 50-50. He said, how much does the county put in this? And I said, nothing. He said, well, they're going to get more economic benefit than the city and the state based on the tax rates. They should be an equal partner. He said, I promised my staff no commitments today, so no commitments. But can you put up $12 million? And we were prepared to bond $18 million, so I certainly could do 12. I said, yes. He said, well, then the state will put up 12 and the county will put up 12. And he looked at Doc McClellan and said, I want a commitment out of the county by Thursday morning for $12 million. It was Monday morning. So Thursday morning they approved $12 million. We had the $36 million to build the creek. Now there were several things we planned in the vision that unfortunately never happened. We were going to try to do the flat bottom type boating they do in San Antonio, which is a great tourism draw. And we eliminated 2 bridges in order to put funding in 3 others so that we could do flat bottom boating from Market to Highland Street. We kept the Highland Street Bridge up. After I left office, the 2 succeeding mayors dropped the other 2 bridges, eliminated that. I put a original Carroll Creek Commission together. We did a lot of studies. We came up with an economic development plan of what should happen in each block along the way to really create a center around the creek for the town. Unfortunately, when I left office, I think those plans all got thrown away. It was a very well thought out plan. And basically, we were going to look at retail, commercial, office buildings, hotels from Market to East Street to tie the sort of 2 downtowns together, Market and East Street, and to have a flow there. That part of the vision's lost, but one other thing that was lost, we were looking at building the whole park for $6 million between 90 and 94, and it went on hold for a long time, and you know the cost since then. But basically the vision's still being carried out, the flood control, the park, and economic development, and hopefully with the plans with the downtown hotel, and if something ever happens with the Wormald site, we can at least get some strong concentration in there. Some of the concepts we had was there would be no parking along the creek anywhere. You shouldn't see cars. It should be very people friendly. Should be kind of separated from the rest of the town, but integrated into the town. It would be a real attraction to pull people in to not just walk the creek and use those businesses, but to bleed into the rest of downtown and support it. And, I think the creek itself, the way it's been designed and is being built, is gorgeous, and is a major attraction. I don't think we'll ever quite get the economic development that we envision, but we should still get enough to make it extremely successful. And it was a very difficult sell. I'd say 45% of the people didn't think it would ever happen. 45% didn't want it to happen, and they didn't want to bring all those people into town, and 10% believed in it. Today, I think almost everybody believes in it, and it should still end up being the centerpiece for Frederick City, and Frederick City is the centerpiece for the county. And I think the park and downtown still have, just an absolutely outstanding future. There was a lot of criticism that the flood control would never work, but we've had some rains much harder than the one we had in '76 over the years.
Absolutely. Even during my 6 years here as mayor, we've had 3 major storms. And one of the things that people don't realize is Baker Park is intended to flood. And it does exactly what it's supposed to do. While I understand your concern of maybe the economic development side isn't panned out. I honestly believe it has from the creek. We've seen the growth of the east side, and I honestly believe the vast majority of that growth is pinned around that Carroll Creek, where we've finally seen where McCutcheon's is able to move forward, and the old warehouse is getting occupation, Wren property. All those things are, and I think it's the long-term vision that you had is step by step, inch by inch, we're moving in the right direction.
Well, the Wren Farm also extends something we talked about, and that was eventually a park all the way from the mountains to the Monocacy, and actually one from the Monocacy to the Potomac. And I think some people are going to be pleased as the Wren Farm and everything in that area develops, because we'll have a park at the other end of Carroll Creek, sort of like Baker Park, but probably 5 times as large. And it's just going to be a beautiful thing all the way through the city.
My bagel shop was right down where the flood was, and every so often I would go out to the bagel in the front and go, where would the water line be if I were standing here in the 70s?
You'd have been in trouble.
I've been in trouble, exactly.
As the boat went by.
That's right. But we appreciate the fact that you come out today. Thank you very much for your vision. It has made a great difference to the city. The vision of that Carroll Creek is wonderful. It's coming to fruition. One of the first of the next 3 fountains were just dedicated recently, and it is a big talking point right now. Do you have anything else to say?
Just that we envisioned it to be the jewel of Frederick, and frankly the jewel of the East Coast, and I think it's still going to become that. Several of us said we want to sit in our old age and have a cocktail outside the hotel on the creek and say this is what we thought it was going to be.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.